Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
He was arrested because he was using an alias in Qatar.
3 years after he escaped a BC jail, police say a convicted murderer has been arrested in the Middle East. Plus, Canada Post workers go back on strike across the country after Ottawa announces major changes to how and where Canadians get their mail.
We can't go on with Canada Post losing $10 million a day and Canadian taxpayers footing the bill.
And
as a Conservative government, we will actually get rid of Metro Vancouver.
amid concerns over costs and governance, BC's opposition leader says it's time to do away with the regional district. But some mayors say not so fast.
It's certainly worth fixing. It's not worth blowing up.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Hello, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. The RCMP says a Canadian fugitive on the run for 3 years is now in jail in the Middle East. Rabih Alkhalil escaped a BC prison in 2022 while on trial for murder. He's been on Canada's most wanted list ever since. The CBC's Mira Bain says more on his arrest and what happens next.
After 3 years on the run, now RCMP say BC fugitive Rabih Alkhalil is in custody in Qatar, picked up using a fake name.
So he was not arrested on the red notice. He was arrested because he was using an alias in Qatar.
The 38-year-old was convicted in the brazen daylight killing of a rival drug trafficker at a cafe in Toronto's Little Italy back in 2012 and a targeted gangland killing in Vancouver that same year. RCMP say Qatari police played a critical role in his arrest.
We now have an official confirmation from Qatar officials who've been very supportive with and working alongside with us to confirm this, which included, fingerprints and photographs of Mr. Alkhalil to share with us.
Earlier this month, investigators announced charges against 3 men who allegedly helped Alkhalil escape from a BC jail in July 2022, but only 2 were in custody. Alkhalil's daring escape involved 2 men posing as contractors. They drove a white Econoline van and helped Alkhalil break out while awaiting a murder trial. Another break came last week when a RCMP-led unit said one of the men suspected of helping Alkhalil, John Potvin, had been arrested in Spain. In an unusual twist, an individual using Potvin's name commented several times on the unit's Instagram posts about the case.
It was definitely comical to the messages that was going back and forth.
While Spain has an extradition treaty with Canada, Qatar does not. Diplomacy will be key, says this immigration lawyer.
These kinds of international diplomatic negotiations can take days or years, depending on the relationships between the 2 countries.
Another concern police say will be the level of security measures in bringing Alkhalil back to Canada, given his international connections and ability to elude authorities. Mira Baines, CBC News, Surrey.
Canada Post workers are back on the picket lines across the country after Ottawa announced big changes to how and where you will get your mail. Workers were picketing outside a Canada Post processing centre in Richmond. The new strike was called just hours after the government's announcement. Ottawa says it's trying to save a broke and broken corporation. Ashley Burke walks us through the changes to come.
For over a century, Canada Post has delivered mail to some people's doors. But the government says it's now time to phase that out.
What this announcement is about saving Canada Post.
The minister responsible says Canada Post is facing an existential crisis. Canadians are turning to competitors to deliver their packages and aren't sending as many letters. The Crown Corporation now effectively insolvent, and Joel Lightbound says Ottawa can't keep bailing it out.
We can't go on with Canada Post losing $10 million a day and Canadian taxpayers footing the bill.
So he's directing Canada Post to end home delivery for the 1/4 of Canadians who still get it. That means moving 4 million addresses over to community mailboxes over the next 9 years.
I'd rather have my mail delivered at my house because I don't have to walk.
Mail should be mailed. You have your box in your house, done.
I would be fine with it for us, but I worry about the people that aren't capable.
Seniors and people with mobility issues can apply to keep the service. The government's also telling Canada Post to move non-urgent mail by land, not air, to save millions of dollars. That means letters will arrive within a week instead of 3 to 4 days. The government's also lifting a 30-year moratorium protecting rural post offices so Canada Post can see how many are actually still rural.
I'm asking the corporation to come back with a plan that will clearly, make sure that rural, remote, Indigenous communities are not impacted.
The union's appalled, and effective immediately, all its workers are on strike.
We want to be delivering to people's homes, just like what we call our competition. We want those parcels going, because otherwise, all that happens is it deteriorates the post office and the writing's on the wall at that point.
The government says Canada Post has 45 days to come up with a plan that details how it will move forward. The Postal Service says it welcomes Ottawa's move so it can better serve Canadians. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
The man who killed BC serial murderer Robert Pikton has told a Quebec courtroom he did so for Pikton's victims. Martin Charest pleaded guilty to fatally attacking Pikton last year with a broken broom handle when the two were inmates at a maximum security prison. Pikton died in hospital several days later. Charest told the judge he did it because Pikton said he would commit more crimes if released. In 2007, Pikton was convicted of 6 counts of second-degree murder, but has confessed to killing more than 4 dozen women on his pig farm in Port Coquitlam. The leaders of the BC Conservatives and the BC Greens made their pitches to local politicians at the Union of BC Municipalities convention. But as Katie DeRosa reports, both parties have also been rocked by instability and leadership issues.
2 opposition leaders, 2 very different visions of what they can offer city and towns and how they stand apart from the governing NDP.
Local governments have been doing the heavy lifting when it comes to climate action in this province. And too often, it's the provincial government blocking or rolling back these policies.
And I know all of you in the municipalities understand very clearly the challenges that you're facing in your communities with issues such as drugs and crime, mental health.
Both the BC Greens and the BC Conservatives are in flux.
Emily Lowen is their new leader.
The Greens just elected a 25-year-old climate activist as their leader. Emily Lowen has promised to hike taxes for the rich, end government subsidies for fossil fuel companies, and rip up the agreement to prop up David Eby's NDP.
The NDP is taking their progressive voters for granted, and they are just capitulating to conservative voters. And so I think it's important for the Greens to fully hold that left pole and their feet to the fire in whatever way we can.
Infighting in the official opposition, meanwhile, has now become public after John Rustad booted high-profile MLA Eleanor Sturcot from the Conservative caucus. When asked if his party can be an effective opposition to the NDP, Rustad said,
"Watch us this fall."
Sturcot sat front and center for Rustad's speech.
A good leader of any party keeps the focus on the government. We've seen from this week with, my ousting right on the first day of UBCM that John Rustad is a leader that continues to keep the media's focus on the turmoil within his own party.
Former MLAs say political infighting does not serve the public.
To have our official opposition party, whatever their political stripes are, in a state of chaos does not serve the people of British Columbia well at all.
Both John Rustad and Emily Lowen set their sights on the same political opponent, Premier David Eby. He'll address the UBCM convention on Friday. Katie DeRosa, CBC News, Victoria.
John Rustad did make a bold, brand new promise in his speech at the UBCM convention. He wants to get rid of one of the largest regional authorities in the province. Justin McElroy now with more on that pitch.
The government he was attacking is Metro Vancouver, and his plan is to eliminate Metro Vancouver. When he made his speech to delegates today after Lowen, it was the first new pledge she made. Of course, Metro Vancouver, the regional government for the 21 municipalities in the region, overseeing things like wastewater, sewage treatment, and other utilities. At the end of the day, Rustad says that with the controversies over the wastewater treatment plant that's billions of dollars over budget and concerns over expenses and spending by directors, he had what he termed as a fairly straightforward idea to change what would happen.
As a Conservative government, we will actually get rid of Metro Vancouver and turn it into what it's supposed to be, which is a water, sewer, and garbage utility. We don't need that extra bureaucracy and cost in our system.
Now, we asked Rustad what it would be replaced by or where the oversight would come. He said because it would be a Crown corporation, it would be overseen by the province, similar to things like ICBC today.
All right, so Justin, could the provincial government actually do that, get rid of Metro Vancouver? And what do politicians and officials at Metro say about Rustad's pledge?
Well, they certainly could. We always talk about how municipalities are creatures of the province, and that extends to regional governments as well. So they could change the community charter. But as to whether politicians in Metro Vancouver think that's a good idea, they ask where the accountability is going to come from, that people want oversight regardless. Coquitlam Mayor Richard Stewart says that internal reviews, he's hopeful, will do the job necessary.
I think it's a mistake. I don't believe that we can just simply eliminate an organization as significant and as important to this region. It's not running very well right now. And I've got enormous challenges with both the way Metro Vancouver runs and the governance structure. It's certainly worth fixing. It's not worth blowing up.
Of course, for Rustad's plan to come to fruition, he would need to survive the current infighting in the Conservative Party and win an election that thus far is not scheduled. So there's a way to go, but certainly it's the boldest proposal yet for the future of Metro Vancouver. And by that, I mean that it wouldn't exist at all.
Municipal Affairs reporter Justin McElroy at the UBCM convention in Victoria. Thanks very much. Still with Metro Vancouver, a water tunnel under the Fraser River has passed a major milestone. After months underground, a massive piece of equipment has emerged from the Earth's depths. Our Michelle Gassoub was there when it surfaced.
This is the exit shaft of the Anasis Water Supply Tunnel, a major project by Metro Vancouver to construct a 2.3-kilometer-long water main under the Fraser River. A valve chamber and shaft 50 meters deep was built on the Surrey side, crossing under the Fraser all the way to the exit shaft in New Westminster. If you've ever wondered how underwater tunnels are built, we're here in New Westminster and we're about to see a major piece of equipment that has been underground for months emerge for the first time. Slowly but surely, a massive cutter head from a boring machine is pulled 60 meters skywards from the bottom of the shaft. It's been underground for months, excavating so that crews can construct the tunnel that will eventually hold the water main.
So as the tunnel is excavated, sequentially what we do is we support the excavated tunnel with precast concrete lining segments that's erected and placed in sequence as we excavate and push through. And then once that's done, the tunnel boring machine, as I mentioned, is lifted from the retrieval shaft, and you line the tunnel with the welded steel pipe in sections. So that's the second pass, essentially.
The next step, installing the water main that will transport drinking water, built to survive a 1 in 10,000 year seismic event.
This will allow the continued supply of safe, reliable drinking water in the event of a significant seismic event, and it allows us to upside the capacity to keep up with the growing demand due to a rapidly growing region for communities south of the Fraser River.
The project below the depths of the mighty Fraser, set to be complete by 2028. Michelle Gassoub, CBC News, New Westminster.
Darius Madavi here with a first look at the weather, but we need to talk about a wildfire in the Okanagan first.
That's right. 325 addresses under evacuation order for the Munro Lake fire, which is just southwest of Peachland. The fire took off this afternoon. The official number is that it's at 20 hectares, but we may see continued growth. Now, if we take a look here, you can see how quickly some of these trees can really start to inflame when we have these really dry, hot conditions that we've had recently in the Okanagan. Temperatures are coming down, but still not the conditions we'd like to see at this point in the year. Let's zoom in here. You can see that fire, again, just southwest of Peachland. We have seen some rain in the area today, earlier this afternoon. That was maybe a little bit helpful, but still not the conditions we want to see. There is more rain on the way, Dan. We'll talk more about that later in the hour. 100 millimeters coming for this rainfall warning area just tonight into tomorrow, and I'll talk more about the area around Zabalis later in the hour.
Sounds good. Thanks, Darius.
Thank you.
BC's municipal elections are still a year away, but another Vancouver councillor is mulling a run for the mayor's chair. That's next. Yet another Vancouver City councillor says they are considering a run for mayor. And as Justin McElroy explains, Pete Fry's entry would certainly shake things up.
There are currently two people trying to replace Ken Sim as Vancouver's mayor in next year's election. Kareem Alam, who was Sim's chief of staff and campaign manager before he was fired by Sim, and Rebecca Bly, who is Sim's colleague on council as an ABC member before she was turfed from his party. With allies turned foes, so far there is nobody running who has consistently opposed Sim during his 3 years as mayor. But that could soon change.
I'm thinking about it.
That is Pete Fry. The two-term Green Party councillor is the only opposition councillor with significant political experience, and as such is being heavily pressured by some to run as a candidate that could unite Vancouver's progressive parties.
Certainly there's a lot of people who are encouraging me to take a more serious look at it. I've been so busy with work, and it still seems like early days. I do see a real need for the kind of leadership I think that will take our city in the right place, and I haven't seen that obviously from Ken Sim.
Cope councillor Sean Orr says his party has not made a decision on what they will do next election, but he says that he himself will not run for mayor, and that if Fry did, he'd make a strong candidate.
I think Pete would make an excellent mayor. You know, Vancouverites, as we saw in the by-election, want a progressive. They want somebody with integrity, and I think Pete has that.
All of this is happening earlier than it used to because of changes to campaign finance rules, which limit the amount someone can donate in 1 year. UBC political scientist Stuart Press says that Fry is a person that could unite the left, but would face challenges, including organization and building up the capacity of the Green Party.
If we were to look at something like the by-election results, the Green Party does not have, the vibes are not good with the Green Party at the moment. That's something that he is going to have to deal with if he is serious about an electoral run.
Could Fry unite the left, put forward a platform that is compelling to Vancouverites, and defeat Bly, Alam, and ABC? Well, 13 months is a long time in politics, and as Fry makes clear, one person's vote matters more than the rest.
Honestly, I have to talk to my wife first and foremost and kind of figure that part out, because it's not going to happen unless my wife says yes.
Justin McElroy, CBC News, Vancouver.
New polling data presents an unenthusiastic opinion about Canada's temporary foreign worker program. It was meant to help employers fill labor shortages. But as Linda Ward explains, a majority of Canadians surveyed felt it's had a negative effect.
In an online survey, Angus Reid asked 1,500 adults how they view the temporary foreign worker program. And what they found is that more than half have a negative view of the program. And out of those who view it negatively, 55% believe the problem is that too many foreign workers are coming into Canada. And when we look at Quebec, for example, they rely heavily on the temporary foreign worker program for their agriculture sector. 37% say the numbers are too high. Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, that goes up to 60%. And most critical was Alberta at 72%. Now, 69% of those polled felt that this program was good for businesses. As for the impact on the economy and prices here in Canada, people were split, but most felt it has a negative effect on the housing market, the labor market, and specifically the labor market for young people. However, more than half say that they believe the government exploits temporary foreign workers. When we look back at 2023, the United Nations issued a report saying that this program was akin to a contemporary form of slavery. The government disputes that and over the years has tried to make a number of changes to the program, bringing down the number of permits that have been issued. But that number has crept back up and then skyrocketed during the COVID-19 pandemic. This government has promised to reduce the number of permits this year. Between January and June, they say 33,000 new permits have been issued. Compare that to the same period last year when that number was 125,000. The Conservative Party supporters and voters are more likely to be critical of this program. 7 in 10 say that they viewed it negatively. Compare that to 39% for Liberal voters. But regardless of where people sat on the political spectrum, most Canadians believe there's room for improvement. Linda Ward, CBC News, Toronto.
After a summery September, it's starting to look a whole more like fall in Tofino. Darius has your BC-wide weather forecast coming right up. Encouraging news for commuters in New Westminster and Surrey after years of delays. BC's Transportation Ministry says the Pattullo Bridge replacement is expected to open to vehicles by Christmas. Final stay cables will be installed in October, connecting the north approach in New West to the bridge deck. The $1.673 billion project replacing the aging Pattullo has faced repeated delays since it broke ground 5 years ago because of rising costs and global supply issues. The bridge will not share its predecessor's namesake, however. Officials say the new name, once revealed, will reflect the Fraser River's significance to local First Nations, including the Musqueam and Kwantlen nations. U.S. President Donald Trump has warned against taking Tylenol or acetaminophen while pregnant, claiming without conclusive proof that it could cause autism in babies. Andrew Chang looks at the studies the Trump administration used to draw that link and why medical experts largely disagree.
When Donald Trump gave medical advice the other day to the roughly 3 million Americans who are pregnant at any given moment in time, he left absolutely no room for nuance.
I just recommend strongly that you don't use Tylenol. Don't take Tylenol. If you're pregnant, don't take Tylenol. Don't take Tylenol. Don't take Tylenol. There's no downside. Don't take it.
And going even one step further, he seemed to really strongly feel that he was qualified to give this medical advice, even if it went beyond what his own team of experts was willing to give.
Maybe stronger from me than from the group because they're waiting for certain studies. I just want to say it like it is. Don't take Tylenol.
So, being a curious journalist, I wanted to try my best, my level best, to understand where he's coming from. Because even if what Trump says often isn't true,
it doesn't hurt not to do it. It doesn't hurt. There's no downside.
There's still usually something he's getting at. The hard part is just sifting through the vagueness of it all.
You know, life is common sense, too. And there's a lot of common sense in this, and I wish things like this were brought up.
So I've listened to what Trump has to say, I've read the studies his administration cites, and I've heard from experts about how all of these facts and claims should be understood as a bigger picture. I would break down his position as having two main arguments. The first is that there's a genuine correlation between Tylenol and autism. The second is that even if he's wrong, you should take his advice anyway, because the stakes are too high not to. Let's start with correlation. There's an old gag on a Simpsons episode from about 30 years ago where Lisa tries to sell her dad a rock that she claims keeps tigers away.
Oh, how does it work?
It doesn't work. It's just a stupid rock. But I don't see any tigers around here, do you?
And then, spoiler, he buys the rock. I try to keep that in mind whenever someone argues anything from the standpoint of correlation, because just because two things happen at the same time doesn't mean that one caused the other. But let's look at the claim.
There's a very large study, the Boston birth cohort, with researchers that have, from Johns Hopkins, my former institution, and Boston University, found quote-unquote consistent associations between acetaminophen in pregnancy and autism. And the Nurses' Health Study with researchers from Yale, Columbia, and Harvard looking at 9,000 kids found that acetaminophen use in pregnancy was associated with neurodevelopmental disorders. And 4 weeks ago, a Mount Sinai Harvard study reviewed all the existing literature and found the overwhelming body of evidence points to an association.
So Trump's pick for head of the FDA cites 3 studies there, but he keeps using this word, association.
Quote-unquote consistent associations associated with neurodevelopmental disorders. The overwhelming body of evidence points to an association.
So let's go through the studies one by one to see what they actually found. The Boston Birth Cohort Study, they analyzed the cord plasma of nearly 1,000 babies, checking for traces of acetaminophen, which can come from all kinds of medications, but the one Donald Trump seems to be most concerned with is Tylenol. And then they measured what the autism rates for those children ended up being, compared to how much acetaminophen was found in their cord blood samples collected at birth. Their findings, drumroll please, that there were more kids diagnosed with autism the more acetaminophen was found in their cord blood. sometimes 2-3 times as many diagnoses. But then I was reminded to be very careful about how to interpret these kinds of findings.
It is very important, the difference between correlation and causation, because if you look at mothers who consume any type of medication in pregnancy, usually that exposure will correlate with adverse child outcomes. But the reason is typically not the drug. It's typically the reason for why the mother uses the drug. So the underlying severe infection, the fevers, the other health problems for which you might need medication. You need to account for the reason that why the mother takes the drug and all the other comorbidities.
And the study acknowledges some of these weaknesses. For example, that there were both genetic and environmental factors that they weren't able to measure and take into account, which is basically saying, we found a possible link here, but the cause might still be a whole range of other things. And to be fair, there are those who believe we're seeing increases in autism rates because we simply understand it better.
The criteria for the diagnosis of autism have, widened. So basically, we capture more than we did 15 years ago.
We can diagnose it more credibly, and parents have only become more likely to want to seek those kinds of explanations out. I'm not trying to dump on the study, I'm just being transparent about its own stated limitations. But let's move on, the nurses study. This one took a slightly different approach, where they tried to rule out one reason for finding the association between acetaminophen and ADHD by way of what's called an NCE analysis. Basically, they didn't just consider whether using something like Tylenol during pregnancy had an association with ADHD rates. They also checked to see if using acetaminophen 4 years before pregnancy and 4 years after pregnancy had a similar impact. And turns out it didn't, which feels like it raises alarm bells about how using Tylenol at any other time but pregnancy seems to have no impact on ADHD rates in kids, but using it during pregnancy potentially did. So this would seem to add credibility to the possibility that something like Tylenol, when specifically used during pregnancy, seems to increase the risk of ADHD in children. But again, there's still this same glaring weakness, because by the study's own admission, concerns regarding uncontrolled confounding remain, which is science speak for there are other possible causes we couldn't control for.
There's comorbidities, okay? Does the mother have depression, anxiety? Does she have diabetes? Does she have hypertension and so forth, asthma? Also, other medications exposure. So we're looking at all risk factors and also the reason why acetaminophen is used. Is it for fever? Is it for pain? Is it for migraine?
But Trump's FDA commissioner did go one step further, making a very aggressive claim.
To quote the dean of the Harvard School of Public Health, there is a causal relationship.
Which right away is like, whoa. Okay, now we're talking. This sounds more definitive. Let's hear what the dean has to say.
There is a causal relationship between prenatal acetaminophen use and neurodevelopmental disorders of ADHD and autism spectrum disorder.
Which sounds like, holy crap. The dean of Harvard School of Public Health says there is a causal relationship between these things, except, best as I can tell, that's completely false. The statement from the dean, as posted by Trump's White House press secretary, who was ironically accusing the Associated Press of spreading falsehoods, the dean's statement says the same thing every other responsible researcher has ever said on the topic, which is that there is evidence which lends support to the possibility of a causal relationship between prenatal acetaminophen, blah, 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 but that right now there's simply an association, no proof of a causal relationship. I even found the study that the guy wrote, which was a study of studies, trying to gather the work of other researchers, all in one place. 46 studies analyzed in all, where just over half showed an association between acetaminophen and neurodevelopmental disorders. But a third of them showed either no association at all, or even a protective effect of taking acetaminophen during pregnancy, in that it actually appeared in these studies to lower the risk of neurodevelopmental disorders. That should tell us two things. One, that Trump's claim isn't based on nothing. There are real scientific efforts to figure out the exact risk profile of a medication like Tylenol during pregnancy. But two, that anyone who dispenses hard and fast rules as medical guidance, the way Trump does.
You know, the way I look at it, don't take it. Don't take it. There's no downside in not taking it.
That's way out of line with how medical science considers these questions. And I'll give you one more reason why. Trump's argument that there's no real downside to following his medical advice, like if he's wrong, whatever, no harm, no foul, you've got an untreated headache. But if he's right, he saved both you and your kid a lot of difficulty down the road. That sounds an awful lot like Pascal's wager, which is the classical argument that we should all believe and follow God, because if we're wrong and he doesn't exist, fine. We committed some finite amount of time to something that was incorrect. But if we're right and there is a kingdom of heaven waiting for us, then that infinite potential benefit outweighs whatever earthly cost attached to belief in something that was never real. So, Trump's take on taking Tylenol?
The word tough it out, you know, it's easy for me to say tough it out, but sometimes in life with a lot of other things you have to tough it out.
As far as blanket medical advice goes, every objective expert I've heard from agrees this is terrible because Tylenol doesn't just treat pain.
Acetaminophen is a safe medication to treat high fevers. Remember, high temperatures, core body temperatures, the reason we tell pregnant women don't go into the hot tub for prolonged periods of time. So it can have significant effects on the fetus if you don't treat it. And so it's always a balance of risks and benefits when you're using a medication in pregnancy, and the benefits outweigh any potential risks that there might be.
The real truth of the matter is that it's worth being very thoughtful about a whole range of activities and foods and drink and medications that one might do or ingest or use during pregnancy, and genuine concerns about the use and overuse of even over-the-counter medications have been around for a long time. And while I've yet to see a credible study that advises all pregnant women to avoid Tylenol the way Trump suggests, some studies do say that there's potentially a risk. And so, considering the stakes, it might be a good idea to use as little Tylenol as possible, while still remembering that Tylenol is taken for a reason that provably protects both mother and child from a range of health problems, including, yes, even neurological ones.
This is a tried and tested therapy. It's been around for ages. The reality is we don't have that many good options to treat pain and fever in pregnancy. And if we wipe acetaminophen off as one of those options, it leaves us with very little.
The FDA is planning to require drug makers to show on their acetaminophen labels that the use of acetaminophen by pregnant women may be associated with an increased risk of neurological conditions such as autism and ADHD in children. As a statement, this is true, if also incomplete. Health Canada has issued guidance on this too, writing, acetaminophen is a safe and effective prescription. When used appropriately, the benefits of acetaminophen outweigh its risks. Most Canadians use acetaminophen without any problems. But what Trump is presenting?
Don't take Tylenol. Don't take it. If you just can't, I mean, it's fight like hell not to take it.
As far as medical advice goes, it is untethered from any notion of scientific rigor and responsibility. And because science is still studying the question, he may be right, but he may also be wrong.
A new study from a top medical journal says cancer cases around the world are expected to balloon in the next quarter century, including here in Canada. As Jennifer Yoon explains, researchers and doctors say healthcare systems need to start preparing now to prevent deaths.
Screening more people for cancer and treating more cancer patients. This Montreal doctor is already feeling the strain.
People are living longer, which is good, but that also means they're receiving treatments for longer. And I think for staffing, it's been difficult to maintain technologists in the hospital.
Now a new study out of The Lancet suggests more cancer cases and deaths are coming globally. By 2050, researchers expect 18.6 million cancer deaths annually, an increase of 75% from 2024. New cancer cases are also expected to grow to 30.5 million, an increase of 61%. Researchers say that trend will play out here in Canada too.
Your population is increasing and older people are living longer, you're going to have more cases.
And the Canadian Cancer Society says that will mean even more strain on the healthcare system.
It does suggest that a lot of additional investments and increases in funding are very likely needed.
Some doctors already see room for improvement as they brace for more cases.
We need to do better with our efficiency, our scheduling. We need to be a bit better at delivering care at home, getting people out of the hospital.
And we had better start preparing now, some say.
In my field, just to train a radiation oncologist takes more than 10 years, so it's not something that we can change on a dime. So we need to be able to project into the future manpower, equipment, and staffing.
When analyzing the data and accounting for the growing risk of cancer as we age, researchers say Canada is doing better than many other countries in treating cancer. Cancer death rates are declining, even as absolute numbers increase. They're hoping by amping up screening and prevention, we'll continue to see that trend. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
Compostable products are supposed to be better than single-use plastics, but are they actually? More in a marketplace investigation next. A marketplace investigation is taking a closer look at products that are labeled compostable. They're supposed to be better than single-use plastics, but as Charles C. Agro shows us, some are not quite as advertised.
Even after 14 weeks underwater.
Oh, there it is.
Buried in the dirt. And a backyard composter.
Honestly, that looks practically brand new. It's dirty, but it's sturdy.
The only products that fully broke down in Marketplace's test of 30 different plastic alternatives, a paper straw, and 2 paper plates.
This says renewable and sustainable. Is this renewable and sustainable?
No, it's single-use garbage.
Environmental expert Karen Wersig wasn't surprised how little the compostable products broke down.
The stuff that looks and feels and is marketed closer to plastic is effectively plastic, and it's doing the same kind of damage in the environment as conventional plastic.
Many compostable products on the market are labeled and suitable for industrial compost facilities only. Facilities that simply don't exist in many Canadian cities. Toronto's Green Bin program is full of compostable plastic, but none of it will actually be composted here. All of it is sorted out and sent to landfill. This facility can't process it. And while some municipalities in Canada can and do process some compostable plastic, every region is different, and that's a big part of the problem, according to Toronto's manager, Matt Keeler.
We need to look at it beyond just Toronto. What would make it better for Toronto? It's what would make it better for everyone in Canada. And I think that would be just standardization in terms of how we process organics across the country, not have it divvied up into, municipality accepting a couple products that the neighbor doesn't accept.
When we asked Environment Minister Julie DeBruzen to come on camera and talk about her plans to put plastic alternatives in their place, she refused. Her office did send a statement, though, saying they proposed labeling rules for compostable products back in 2023. Those are on hold, though, while we await a federal court decision. Charles C. Agro, CBC News, Toronto.
Darius Mandavi is here with the BC Wide Weather Forecast. Before we get to our region, let's talk about tropical storms all over the Atlantic.
That's right, because it may feel late in the year, but the Atlantic hurricane season is really starting to ramp up. This is the main one we're focusing on, Tropical Storm Gabrielle. But before we get there, I just wanted to highlight 2 others. One, this is already a tropical storm, Humberto, and this one is likely to become a tropical storm within the next couple days. Now, this is the climatology of hurricanes in the Atlantic and tropical storms. And you'll notice the peak is around September 10th, but it takes a while for it to really start to slow down. And we do have still quite a bit of time for us to see some major hurricanes. This one, for instance, Humberto, Humberto is projected to become a major hurricane within the next few days. And this is the one we're focusing on. Already underwent its rapid intensification. This is earlier this week. You can see a photo from the ISS, that really well-defined eye. Very strong storm. Now, as it passed out of those tropical waters and started to veer further and further east, it lost a lot of that strength because, again, passing over these cooler waters, the oranges instead of the dark reds. Now, it is heading towards the Azores, the Portuguese islands, well off the coast. It was expected to be a Category 1 storm when it passed over. No longer expecting to see that, just a tropical storm, but still near hurricane strength winds, 110 kilometers per hour. And we're going to see that storm then make its way towards the Portuguese mainland. Now, that's all I have to say about that. Let's turn our attention over here to BC. Lots of moisture feeding into the province. We have that rainfall warning down the west coast of Vancouver Island, up to 100 millimeters expected in some of those areas. And even after places like Zabalos get about 100 between pretty much through the day tomorrow and into the overnight period. They still might get another 50 millimeters or so through the weekend. So a lot of rain coming to those areas. And again, lots of moisture feeding in. If we roll this forward, you can see a lot of it continuing to come to parts of the south coast right through the weekend. Here's the rain. You can see that heavier stuff really starting to hit the north and central coast as we get into tomorrow afternoon. The North Island as well, coming down the west coast. Less of it makes its way to Vancouver and pretty much very little to Victoria. But again, lots of rain for many areas, and those showers could be heavy at times, even for places like Victoria that are just getting showers. Could be heavy. Now, here's our fire danger, still high in the southern interior. We still have some smoke making its way to the southern interior as well. And again, besides that rain that's coming to the coast this weekend, we may see some showers break into the southern interior. Dan, expect it to be pretty on and off over the next few days.
Okay, we are warned. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
2026 will be a good year for Guinness. Not the beer per se. Stick around for a taste of the now 70-year-old Guinness World Record book. Next.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC inbox.
On October 18th, join CBC at the Big Sisters Soiree Gala, an evening for the community to come together, celebrating mentorship and resilience of youth. And never miss a special programming series, event, or contest. Subscribe to CBC's e-newsletter today at cbc.ca/Vancouver inbox.
Every year, the Guinness World Record book lists the fastest, strongest, and best among us, or those that have a really unique trait or ability.
And sometimes it's about being the tallest donkey. Here's a small taste of what's in store for 2026.
Derek is the tallest donkey in the world at 167 centimetres or 5'5". Bamboo has really long ears, So you would expect him to have really good hearing. But in my opinion, sometimes I think he's deaf. Or is it just to us?
Everything I looked at, I was wondering, can I turn that into a car? And then one day I'm standing in line in a gas station, and right next to me is a bowl of fruit, and on top was a banana exactly this shape.
Norbert set the Guinness World Record title by skateboarding 10 meters in 11.32 seconds. He'll do anything for a treat. He loves the camera, so anytime I'm filming something for his social media channels, he just needs to be right up in there and see what's going on.
Forget fast and strong. It's about being the most creative.
No kidding. That is a big donkey over there.
When the Vancouver Park Board began removing a log from a Kitsilano beach, community backlash quickly made them change their mind.
As Michelle Gomez reports, the Park Board says staff realized its removal would cost almost the same as repairing damage it causes to the seawall.
The city of Vancouver has quietly made the decision to leave the Trafalgar Beach log as is amidst community outcry. Here's what people had to say about it.
And the views are spectacular, and it's a sort of little peaceful bit of nature right beside the very busy Kitts Beach. And the log is like this ending point. It's sort of become iconic without it even being intentional.
There's too much cultural relevance. It was too important to the community to remove it. I think people come down here and they see the Trafalgar log and they're reminded of the history and the beauty of this place. So that's why the community rose up, and that's why the Park Board is going to leave it right where it is.
I do remember the first time I saw it, and it was a kind of an energy, like I feel I was connected to the land, to the people, and I was so happy that people came together based on connection, on empathy and care for something so little. And I do believe that if we care for the little things, we can also care for the bigger things our city is facing.
I know it might sound silly, but I love that log. I walk by it all the time. Great log. Thanks for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6.
You can watch this newscast on our website, cbc.ca/BC, and we'll have your next local news at 11 o'clock, right after the National. See you then.
There was lots.